Okay, let's take a look. So we got Nobara, then Gojo, and now Megami. Yeah, I think we're locked into the bad ending, folks. What's up, guys? All Hunter here. Here we are to do a breakdown and review of chapter 237 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as the decisive battle in the uninhabited demon-infested Shinjuku, number 14. And this chapter's heat, but I'm just mad it doesn't have a new name. Like, I mean, I get it, but it isn't a decisive battle. Like, the decisive battle's over. So unless this is some secret Gojo glazing, I have no idea why we're still calling it this. But let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Chair, stop it. Stop it, chair. Editing me. 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? All Pencil here. Fun fact, I have it on me. And I keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, we may have lost. There's a 90%, maybe a smooth 95. On the right day, I wake up on the right side of the bed, we're probably pushing 99. It's not looking good, ladies and gentlemen. It's not looking good. Well, here's the thing. The chapter itself, crispy. I don't think there's a single piece of bad. Well, there's weird art right at the very end, but I think that's just me seeing things. So, like, this whole chapter looks delicious, scrumdiddlyumptious. If I could put it in the microwave and eat it, I would. But in terms of the state of our characters, our cast, our crew, if you will, it's not looking too hot. In the moment, because so many people are already gone, and due to a statement at the end of the chapter, which may lead to the destruction of everything, if it is to be true. But obviously, we got a lot to talk about, so let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. So open up, and we do get to see that Kashimo and Hajime is lunging in, as we saw at the end of chapter 236. The narrator declares, the fight against the strongest continues. The god of lightning, Kashimo, enters the ring. I guess you can call it a ring. Poor Shinjuku, dog. Like, imagine you invested in Shinjuku, dog. You bought a building there, your company started there, you got a small business going on there. The whole thing's destroyed. Like, there's some buildings in the background. Like, if you made it all the way back here, congratulations. You're still intact for now. I wouldn't be shocked if Kashimo got thrown through one of those buildings or he threw Sukuna through one of those buildings. But at least for now, you're good. But, like, a whole chunk of the city's just rubble. Leveled to the ground, wiped from existence in the case of something. Like, gosh darn, bro, that's wild. However, Kashimo is in fact lunging in, and it is confirmed that he is legit lunging in. I don't still fully comprehend where the rest of our cast and crew is. Like, maybe they're really close by. I mean, I suppose they'd have to be close by, right? If they don't have a teleporter, which we'll talk about in a second. They would need to be close by in order to make sure Sukuna doesn't skedaddle if Sukuna felt like skedaddling. No, realistically, especially with what's revealed at the end of this chapter, Sukuna never had a reason to Did he? Did he ever have a reason? Like, to me, once again, it's in the same vein that I really believe Sukuna didn't have anything to do with the neutral limitless. Anything, ever, period, point blank. Because with what's revealed at the end of this chapter, and what's shown in this chapter scaling-wise, no one ever stood a chance, except for Gojo. And now Gojo, unless this little splatter right here, this little distinct piece of black and the other distinct piece of black is supposed to be Gojo, Gojo doesn't appear in this chapter. His body, I mean. Obviously, Gojo wouldn't appear. But, like, literally, unless that's supposed to be him right there, which I doubt, I feel like we would see more detail. Gojo is really, really tall. He should be taller than Maguna is, because Maguna's 5'9" right now. Gojo doesn't appear in this entire chapter. The only person who could actually give Sukuna a decent fight is now, but not snoring. Just, he's gone. Cooked. Literally diced. So, he doesn't even appear in this chapter. He's gone. Instantaneously. He does not make a single appearance in this chapter. You can prove me wrong if you want, but I've read it a couple times. Raws and complete now. So, he's not here. And if this chapter is any indication on how Kashimo, an arguably top 10, possibly top 8, if you're juicing them up and like slopping them off to the ultimate extreme, top 5 character does with his freshly activated curse technique, it's not looking too good for our cast. However, Kashimo doesn't know that just yet. And after witnessing, which may be delusion, may be confidence, maybe something that's a mix of both, Kashimo lunges in with a smile on his face. He is ready and willing, bro. He itching and scratching for it, basically. Very, very interesting. Like, especially, I don't know. I know there's still so much time. He's probably gonna. Once again, I'm hoping from the bottom of my heart his fight is at bare minimum as long as Yorozu's, hopefully longer. But I don't know. His performance in this chapter is just, I don't know how he watched the fight between Gojo and Sukuna. Really thought he was about to do something, but obviously he's coming in hot. He's ready for it. He's been waiting for this battle for 400 years. And even if you want to argue he didn't actually wait 400 years because he was like, we do know there is an afterlife. Presumably he was there. And if characters like Toji can get into the afterlife after all the, I can't even like sugarcoat it. If all the heinous acts that Toji committed were things that happened and he still got into the JJK afterlife, there's no doubt in my mind that Kashimo did too. So he may have literally been waiting 400 years. So once again, we don't know like the time flow relative across things and what he looked like. But we may see him in the airport very, very soon. Let's just say that. Because we see that as he's lunging in, he notices, so they came after all. And this is interesting. I wonder how he knows Uraume. Like, it's a minor detail. I don't even think these two are going to speak a single word to each other, because one of them's likely going to end up before they could ever speak to each other. Whether you think it's Uraume or Kashimo, you tell me down below. But with that being the case, he does say so they came after all, which implies that he knows Uraume. Now, this is likely just the modern cast telling him about him, or telling him about Uraume, them, because I don't think he ever, well, we have so little perspective on any of the incarnated players' past, really. So maybe he did meet Uraume in the past. We don't even know if Uraume is like freshly incarnated in the new vessel, if they're just immortal. We don't really know. But with that being the case, it's interesting that Kashimo acknowledges them, and it's like, okay. As if this was something he was going to have to take into account, which once again just kind of builds like my secret pseudo-narrative that like Uraume is a casually top 10 character, and like if you slop off some of their feats, they could be higher. Like, I don't know. I can't get over the 215 feet of them just speed blitzing and locking down post-Sakura Jimamaki. You don't just do that. You know what I'm saying? One of the fastest characters in the verse, you just lock down like that. And you got characters like Kashimo Hajime actually acknowledging your presence. Like, Uraume's just like that, dog. I don't know what else to say to you. However, we do get to see that Kashimo acknowledges it. And notably, this could be a double entendre, because he does say they. Notably, I refer to Uraume as they or them, specifically because we don't actually have a gender confirmation for them. You just don't. Like, I don't know. Unless someone can pull up a data books again, or a manga panel, or something. We have no idea what Uraume actually is. That's like a consistent joke. A lot of the community has just assumed they're the trap of the series, along with Kirara. But that, once again, Kirara's thing is weird too, because that's like a whole mistranslation thing. I have no idea. There's so much complication around Kirara, but like they do have specific pronouns. They're referred to as certain things. I just haven't read those chapters in forever, so I can't tell you. But at least for Uraume, they've never been referred to, by a knowledgeable source at least, by a specific gender pronoun. So I'm gonna keep calling them. But the reason I bring this up is because Kashimo may not just be referring to Uraume when they say they came. They is also a word that can be referred to for multiple people. So we see that Kashimo leaped, and according to the narrator, hold on, let me whip out the narrator voice real quick. I'm gonna take a sip. And despite vaulting 203 meters off the ground, a heaping mass of ice towered above Kashimo. Dog, what? What? Like, to put it into perspective, 203 meters. Let me look up something. I got the Googler right on me. You know I had to get the Googler out for this chapter because there are certain things that I need to say and pronounce and look up. But how tall is the Empire State Building? How tall is it? Empire State Building in meters. I'm going to do specifically in meters. In meters. Okay, never mind. That's still way more. But still, 443 meters. Kashimo in one bound, presumably, because it says vaulting. It doesn't say in multiple vaultings. It doesn't say vaulting after vault. No, in one vault, leaped darn near half the height of the Empire State Building. Oh, what? What? He just did that with a leap? How is bro moving like that? And like, to be fair, we've seen... No, we haven't. I was about to say we've seen stuff like this before. No, I think this is just like in sheer insanity is one of the craziest physical feats we've seen. Unless we assume like Hakari leaped from one half of his colony to the other side. I don't know. That's wild to me that he just straight up leaped, vaulted 203 meters off the ground. By the way, like notably, that means he was vaulting towards Sukuna. So he jumped, like he squatted and jumped from wherever he was and cleared a whole bunch of distance while trying to go horizontally. But he ended up 203 meters off the ground. He could likely leap the Empire State Building if he really felt like it. Like, in terms of superhuman stuff, like we've seen, in my opinion, more superhuman stuff like running on water and stuff like that. Though admittedly, I think it's confirmed you only need to be going like 43 miles per hour to be doing that, which is weird. It's just like, surface tension and stuff like that. But in terms of just sheer statement of superhuman abilities, like, dog, 203 meters is crazy. And another thing that's absolutely crazy to me is that Uraume was chilling over, because notably it says towers above Kashimo. And look at these skyscrapers in the background, or at least buildings in the background. You can't even see Kashimo or Sukuna in this image. So Uraume, after presumably having the purple blocked by Sukuna, just leaped or flew or did something into the heavens and was just chilling up there. What? Like, does anyone else find that crazy? Like, we don't even see them do it. Notably, we don't get like perfect perspectives way back in 223 when the battle actually begins. But like, dog, you're telling me they just went, oh, thanks, Master. I'm just gonna fly up real quick and just chilled up there, quite literally. Like, what caused the ice to fall? Were they holding the weapon that they ended up airdropping, or was it give it? Like, I am so confused in all the best ways. I'm loving it. The insanity on the first page alone. Lightning gods leaping over half the height of the Empire State Building horizontally. Ice deities falling down from the heavens, causing what looks like literal snowfall. And the person atop this ice spire from the heavens is none other than the frozen star, Uraume. Yo, I ain't gonna lie to you, dog. Uraume looking extra majestic, like insanely majestic. Like, look at the hair flow. Notably, I ain't got that much hair to flow, so I ain't never seen it like this. But like, look at the like, it's like someone ran their fingers through their hair, and it's like it's just looking scrumptious. Like, dog, the extra detail, the reflection in the lower lip. Gege knows what they were doing this shot. We're making Uraume look extra fashion model-esque. I don't know why. I'm not complaining. Once again, like I said, the art quality in this chapter is like, especially as a guy who's been critiquing Gege's art quality for a little bit. Like, there's some chapters you can go back where, I think pretty much in almost all of the Gojo versus Sukuna fight, you've heard my critiques. And once again, even as I compliment and praise now, and as I critique then, I'm going to leave this disclaimer. I am not that good of an artist. I barely count as an artist. I'm barely a sketch artist. I could never be a mangaka. I could never be a mangaka of Gege's tier. Nowhere near it. Think of the worst mangaka. the worst comic illustrator, the worst animator you can think of. I promise you, give me 100 years in the hyperbolic time chamber and literal immortality, and I would probably still be worse than them if the only thing I did was draw. But since I am something of a artist, I'm something of an artist myself, you know. I do feel licensed enough, or at least just, I want to be honest with y'all. I'm not gonna blindly glaze, but allow me to not blind. I guess this is it really blind glaze? Like, my eyes are being blessed right now. Like, the art in the chapter is beautiful. Look at this, bro. Look at the quality is insane. Like, the eyelashes. Has he ever drawn eyelashes on anybody? Like, Gojo, I think. Did he? Look at a picture of Gojo. In fact, I'll go straight to Viz. Let me see if he had eyelashes. Like, this is just crazy extra detail your boy was, in fact, not expecting. But let me see. 236. Okay. Yeah, he drew eyelashes on Gojo. But they're so few and far between and so narrowly adjusted. Like, Uraume has thick, detailed lashes. You know, Gege was feeling some type of way when the pen was hitting the paper. But, like, with Uraume falling from the heavens, it is crazy. Like, that tells me that Uraume is more than confident enough to take anything Jujutsu has to offer. Anything. And obviously that could just be like oh, I don't care, I'm here to serve my master kind of thing. So, whatever. But the fact that Uraume, upon seeing Kashimo, admittedly a random, who knows, maybe Uraume knows nothing about Kashimo. But the fact that Uraume was so ready, just the moment Gojo disappeared, the moment Gojo was gone, fallen from the heavens, instantaneously. They were ready for all smoke. Once again, I know confidence is definitely not a 100% thing to solidify scaling or anything like that. Obviously, I know that. Trust me, I'm a 7 Blade Sense reader. I know that. But with that being the case, the gumption, the gall, the guts to be able to just dive from the heavens to fight anybody is wild. But speaking of diving from the heavens to fight anybody and anyone, anywhere, he came prepped. He came prepared as he fell from high in the air. It is none other than the Jordan wearing, I'ma stomp you out even without my Timbs. I'm about to break you down, and I ain't talking about with no music. I'm about to shatter every single one of your bones while you leave all mine alone. I got RCT flowing through me because you know I'm Himothy. It is Hakari Kenji coming in to stomp Uraume out, bruh. And honestly, you know it's serious. Because you don't be wearing the J's straight to the fight unless you know they're going to come out uncreased. Unless he's confident that the RCT is going to flow through them too, he came prepped and prepared to stomp Uraume. That's wild. That's wild. And I will admit, thank you to everybody. A lot of people are saying that Ui has a teleportation technique. I'm just going to go with that because I know I shouldn't be scaling. I'm sorry. It's second nature to me. It's something I always pay attention to. There's no way on this good green earth that you're going to tell me that Hakari just jumped this high. Like, just jumped out of nowhere to reach this height. Like, what? Like, there's no way. And people have supplemented with, like, well, I think Ui and Mei ended up in Malaysia after Shibuya, even though, like, not much time had passed in Shibuya, so them getting a plane and getting to where they were is super unlikely, so teleportation is likely a thing. I'm gonna go with that for the sake of my sanity. And I guess Ui immediately teleported out, because you don't see him in this chapter. This is I will admit, this is a very focused chapter. Drink your water. This is a very focused chapter. Only 4 characters appear in this entire chapter, I'm pretty sure. Some characters are hinted at, some characters are referenced by, like, name, but in terms of physical appearances, even characters that realistically, even if it is just their lifeless body, even characters that should appear in this chapter don't appear. This is a very focused chapter. It's only Uraume, Sukuna, Hakari, and Kashimo. This is, even though the chapter is the exact same name, this is clearly setting up a new era, a new segment, a new beginning to this battle. And I think that's good. Focusing and locking on these characters, even if it does raise some logistical questions on where certain characters should be and kind of causes confusion in the timeline due to Gojo's body literally not being there. Like, I'm just going to be straight about it. I'm not even going to dance around it anymore. His body not being there makes no sense. But to establish the focus, to get the focus kind of off Gojo and locking us into this next major fight, it is a smart writing choice. And I like how Gege did it. However, we do get to see that Uraume is nonplussed. They do not care at all. Like, I don't know about y'all, but if someone ever looked at me like this as I'm falling from the heavens, like, really? An attack from above? Like, dog, I feel low-key disrespected. Like, honestly, I'm not a fighter. I'm not a warrior. So, I'm not a person of conflict. So, maybe that'd be it. But, like, I can't imagine. Like, imagine you pull up to the function. You got your controller in hand, and you're ready to just curb stomp somebody and smash and fighters and your respective fighting game in whatever game you're gonna play. And one of the people there just looks at you like, they're here? Really? They think they stand a chance? Yo, that would get me active. It hasn't happened to me yet. Keyword is yet. It'll probably happen to me one day. Who knows? Maybe I will get stomped that one day. But still, that's what I imagine this feeling is going to be like. But of course, this isn't a fun little game of Nintendo characters and assorted third-party franchises, boxing, or even a compilation of the famous characters from the well-known worldwide IP of Dragon Ball punching each other in a video game format. No, these characters are fighting to determine the fate of the world. Like, quite literally, the stakes are infinitely higher within their respective boundaries. However, we do get to see, and Hakari does say, hey, sorry, pal, but I made a promise. You're not going anywhere. And I will admit, the raw, soft translations or the unofficial translations I was looking at earlier, I do kind of wish, and I want to see how the official translations do it, I do kind of wish they kept a line, hey, sorry, can't let you live. Like, that, I don't know, that one hits so much harder to me, other than, you're not going anywhere. Like, it sounds like something Yuji would say, you're not going anywhere, pal. Hakari would be like the kind of person that says, I'm not going to let you live, bro. You don't come in on that kind of action and say, you're not going anywhere, buddy. But still, Hakari landing in with this much confidence, especially considering Uraume was very recently described as a monster. And once again, don't sleep on Uraume. I'm going to make the video, especially now that we've got this. There's no break next week, so I'm gonna have to be pumping them out. But with that being the case, Uraume not only just has weird feats that make them super duper crazy despite their very limited screen time, like solo stomping Jujutsu High, casually palming piercing bloods, tagging and restraining post-Sakurajima Maki and awakened Yuji. Like, these are not like rando feats. This is like a darn near relative to 15 finger character. The fact that Hakari's coming in with that kind of confidence, like, I get it. He's just keeping a promise, right? He told Kashimo, hey, you help us out, you come with us, I'll let you fight Sukuna with no interference. So I'll throw anything when it gets in the way. He's just keeping his word. But, like, dog, he's going to be... Admittedly, though, this is actually probably the smartest play for him. Because let's say he's betting on Kashimo losing. Like, I think everyone was. I don't think... Is there a single Kashimo fan out there that has faith in him? Like real 100%. Like, who really think, in a similar vein to how the Gojo fans were feeling before Gojo got half Joed. Let's be real. Before Gojo got Goed or Joed, pick your half of the name. As a lot of people were feeling with Gojo versus Sukuna being an inevitability that he was going to lose. Do any Kashimo fans genuinely believe that he's going to beat Sukuna, especially after the end of this chapter? Do you? But with that being the case, I think it is safer, in a similar vein to how Hakari got on his roll with Charles and then challenged the stronger opponent in Kashimo. I think, even though Uraume is a much higher tier threat than someone like Charles, Hakari getting his licks in and getting a roll-up against Uraume is much safer than him trying to get a roll-up against Sukuna, especially considering Sukuna may or may not have his domain back. But With that being the case, Hakari immediately lunges in, and we see that Uraume just plays absolutely no games. They immediately begin to activate their curse technique. I haven't the slightest interest in you. Ice formation. And we see Hakari waste absolutely no time and is like, hey, can't blame you, because you ain't seen nothing yet. And immediately goes for domain expansion. And I'm very interested to see this fight. This fight in particular. Once again, because the scaling between these two characters is super duper weird. And honestly, Hakari fighting Uraume is fantastic, because one of the biggest issues up until this chapter with scaling Kashimo and scaling Hakari is that they were so nebulously weird. They're in their own little world where they're extremely powerful. But like, before this chapter, you could just say they're nebulously above Yuta, because Yuta says Hakari's stronger than him. And ask any Yuta fan ever. They don't even buy that statement. So, Jackpot Hakari might as well just exist in the void. And Kashimo, by proxy, being the only person to fight him, also existed in the scaling void. There's no, like, interconnections you could make. That's why scaling them both is kind of a nightmare. You gotta just have to make massive assumptions, especially considering we don't fully understand curse energy reinforcement, how infinite curse energy really works for Hakari, how impressive Kashimo's bolt is, would it do damage to Yuta, would it do damage to Ri? Like, the rest of the verse was kind of in its own big old bubble. Meanwhile, Hakari and Kashimo were in their own smaller bubble, punching each other in the face. But now, both of them are getting scaling to extremely relevant characters. Uraume, who once again, despite having sparse screen time, has pretty definitive scaling above a lot of characters and relative to certain characters. And obviously Sukuna, who has very definitive scaling above the strong, well, what was once believed to be the strongest character in the entire series. So Hakashimo, I don't know why I'm confusing their name. I mean, Hakari's an adult, right? I mean, let me not make the shipping joke. But, and obviously, Hajime is fighting Sukuna now, so good, the scaling could go great. Man, the story's line, we'll have a couple notches. But then again, I feel like, if anything, in a similar vein to the end of Naruto with the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, I do think scaling is going to get wonky. If we expect the good guys to win. If you don't, then maybe scaling doesn't have to get wonky. But if that's the case, then, especially by the end of this chapter, everyone's getting one shot. But once again, I keep talking in vagueness about the end of the chapter. Let's actually work our way towards it. So we see that Hakari does actually manage to trap Uraume in his domain. Very interesting. It seems like this domain will be stuck in the heavens. I think this is the first time. Well, actually, no. Technically, we've seen domains float in the air before. Like, specifically, the Unlimited Voids come to mind. I think all the Unlimited Voids are specifically little pocket bubbles. But I'm trying to think of any other time we've seen the outside domain. Like, the three-way domain between Ryu, Uro, and Yuta, that was like half sunk into the ground. I think even Akari's previous domains are always sunk into the ground. So I think this is the first time we've seen a domain suspended like high in the air. Once again, literally in their own pocket universe. And the thing is, I'm wondering, are they going to fall on the fight? Is this accidentally going to become a 2v2? Because remember, Hakari's domain cannot be maintained once he hits Jackpot. Once he hits Jackpot, his domain, it begins to break down immediately. So unless Hakari changes the coordinates, which we know he can do, they may accidentally end up falling in on the fight. But I assume, once again, to keep his promise, Hakari's going to change the coordinates so that when his domain ends, they're in a different part of the city, if I had to take a guess. However, we do get to see that with Hakari trapping Uraume in his domain, that doesn't stop the ice from falling. And the block of ice continued downwards towards the earth. How the block of ice melted, I don't know. But for Hakari's sake, base Hakari's sake in particular, I'm going to assume that the domain activation and the entrapment shut down Uraume's technique. Thus, the cursed energy leaving this ice construct frozen ended up falling apart and reducing it back to water. And we see Sukuna simply raise a hand like, hey, you know what to give me. And in this beautiful panel, once again, the art in this chapter is just scrumdiddlyumptious. This beautiful panel of this torrential downfall comes down. You see Sukuna, he catches a little something right above his head. And still, I still love this little detail of Kashimo being like, oh, he's afraid of the water. He literally is like a cat. because he does not want to get soaked. But to be fair, that still does make sense within the context of his ability. And I do think Sukuna transforming into his original form, if it has certain ramifications on his ability set, I think it is very purposeful that he does that, because with Myriad Elephant, he literally could just force Kashimo to lose all his curse energy again. Like, he could do it if he really wanted to. But we see that the rain comes down, and Kashimo still is unintimidated. Once again, very impressive from Kashimo. I know he's kind of like a... Nah, he's not even kind of like him. He is a smoke demon kind of character where, like, I don't care if you're stronger than me. I don't care if you don't want to fight me. I don't care anything but the thrill of battle. So let's throw these hands, man. Like, I get that's his kind of character, but once again, seeing the extravagant display, all that gets him to say is, all those theatrics just to deliver that, dog. He's really ready for it. Though once again, bro's been waiting a solid 400 years. So we see that Sukuna received a weapon. Now allow me to whip out the Googler, because I'm not even going to try. I'm going to butcher it. I know I'm going to butcher it regardless. But let me see. You may wonder what I'm looking for, considering we do have the name of it right here. Let's see. I don't know how to say it, but thank you to everyone who told me what this weapon is. I know it's a famous weapon. I believe it is a sacred and ritualistic weapon from Hindu mythology. Turn the volume up.
Vajra.
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 Vajra. If I'm still saying it wrong, I'm trying to copy it straight from Google. But the Vajra. Very, very interesting built weapon. I'm not going to lie. Admittedly, the memes have kind of gotten to it for me. I can no longer unsee the baby rattle. Like, I just can't. I can't unsee it. Like, I can still barely see the blade in this image in particular. This is one of the rare times where I say Gege's art kind of blends a bit too much. Once again, it's specifically for this one panel. It doesn't even look bad. I still think this is a very good image. I even like the dynamism of the shot, where a lot of the emphasis is placed on the fist and the non-existent hand fades into the background, while the fist is a heavy part of the foreground. You see all the details on his knuckles. Very beautiful done shot. But the blade does look kind of hidden here, which only emphasizes the baby rattle nature of it. However, memes aside, we see melting from the ice was an object created through a binding vow by Yorozu before her final breath. The cursed tool, Kamutoke. So, Yorozu, we finally got the gift reveal. This is something that the community has been itching and scratching and waiting for ever since Yorozu got all that time ago. It really wasn't that long ago. I think it was like half a year ago at this point. But still, we've been waiting for it. We've been itching for it. We've been scratching for it. And we finally got the reveal. So now, this does appear to be the end of it. There's no more theories on sensu beans, no more theories on being both weapons. It is just Kamutoke, which is very interesting. It's interesting that she made him the smaller weapon. Like Mai, at the end of her days, made Soul Split Katana, which arguably would be a way better weapon than Kamutoke ends up being, specifically against Kashimo. And even then, I wish we could have gotten both. I know that'd be greedy. Like, obviously, Yorozu doesn't say, here's my gifts. She very specifically says, here's my gift. So it makes sense that it's only the one weapon, but at the same time, whatever, it's teeny tiny bit neat to see multiple weapons come out of that, but beggars can't be choosy. And this cursed tool, Kamutoke, is very interesting because, as luck would have it, its effect, boom, boom, straight bolts. Once again, I do think this kind of starts to make other pieces of Sukuna's kit kind of irrelevant. Like, I guess Nue isn't needed anymore, or any Nue totality now, because he has bolts that are the size of Nue's. Like, notably, it's hard to tell with the panel perspective, and I know editing me is going to jack this up even worse, but follow my cursor. This is Maguna. Maguna is in Megami's body. Obviously, that's why he's Maguna. Maguna, and by proxy Megami, is 5'9". This is 5'9". Look at the size of these lightning bolts. This is Maguna. This is the bolts. This is Maguna. This is the bolts. The size is crazy. Notably, I have to put pause all over. Yo, for once, I'm going to say pause. The girth is wild, though. But pause. But the only bolts that we've seen that are bigger and beefier than these ones are Nue's. The Nue that was chilling on top of a skyscraper, its bolts were massive. But still, that's crazy that he just has this in weapon form, casually, just throws it out. And we see Sukuna does end up feeling nostalgic for the use of his old weapon, which does spark immediately after use, which is very, very nice. These are the similar electrical effects to what Kashimo uses after his bolts. I do wish these bolts in of themselves got more of this kind of effect. This could definitely easily be confused for energy, and I get it, the chapter, and by energy I literally just mean like raw cursed energy. But the chapter does go out of its way to explain the lack of damage Kashimo takes as an immunity because of his cursed trait being like electricity. But I think, considering Gege clearly does have the tool to make lightning bolts look more staticky and electric, I do think this would have benefited from a little bit more. But once again, it's a half a page in a 20-page chapter, and it gets the information across regardless. So it isn't necessary, but, you know, I'm just trying to take what in my opinion is a 9 on 10 out of 10 chapter up to an 11 on little details like that. Little bits of extra detail. But with that being the case, Sukuna wields it and is like, yeah, this takes me back. One shot in full, smiting him with my Kamutoke, which is very, very nice. This does once again play into the idea that was heavily hinted at in Yorozu's backstory of Sukuna after a while barely being recognized as like a sorcerer or a creature or even a curse, and more so revered as a god. Something that could just exist in this transcendental state that at any moment could literally strike you down. And with Kamutoke, he can clearly just, haha, no, and immediately just take you out of there with a single swing of his blade. Very, very impressive. The Vajra is a very, very cool looking weapon now that I got a full and better comprehension of it, and I do love its application. I think this will be more useful against his next opponents, though. Unfortunately, this is just a bad matchup, and it's very similar vein to how Cleave and Dismantle were a bad matchup against Gojo. And we see Sukuna himself being like, Nani? As Kashimo stands there, mostly unfazed, but note how I say mostly. Allow me to take a sip and hit the narrator voice again. Oh wait, let me read the full phrase. A cursed tool, Kamutoke. As luck would have it, its effect happened to be nullified by the particular characteristic innate to Kashimo's cursed energy, namely his resistance to electricity. Note how it says resistance. In the original rough translations I read, it was an immunity, which did catch me a little bit off guard. I was like, wait, immunity? He does take some damage here. You can see he has a couple scratches on him. But note, it is only a resistance to electricity. That does not mean he's actually immune. So, one of the biggest things that a lot of Kashimo, I guess Kashimo haters, how do you hate Kashimo though? He's such a cool guy. Or even really Kashimo fans were making this joke too. At least I was. I was afraid that Sukuna was going to say, let's have a lightning battle. And he just toasts Kashimo alive with lightning. And it does appear that that's a possibility. Because he's only resistant to electricity. Like, we as humans are resistant to blunt force trauma. We do not have hollow bones. Our bones have stuff inside them. Unlike birds, who are very vulnerable to blunt force trauma. Which is... ironically enough, I'm thinking of Pokemon typing. I'm a huge Pokemon guy to this day. I always wondered when I was younger, why is fighting not super effective on flying? And what's flying super effective on fighting? But then again, you ever try to punch a bird? So in the same vein to how birds are not resistant to blunt force trauma, yet we are, that doesn't mean an overage of blunt force trauma can't do us in. Sure, your arm may be able to take a punch or two, but a hard enough punch from the right person will shatter your resistant bones. So thusly, I wouldn't be shocked if Kashimo, in the end, gets toasted alive by Kamutoke. This may be slight hinting at it. He takes a little bit of damage from a casual flick of the wrist of the weapon already, so I wouldn't be shocked if ultimately he does get lightning battled by the end of it. But once again, I'll see what the official translations have to say, because minor changes like that, once again, a minor change in wording can have drastic implications on the future of a character. But we do get to see that Kashimo, unfazed by the fact that he was just hit by 10 lightning bolts at once, is like, Sukuna. Or no, that's more Sukuna's voice. Sukuna, did you earn the title of the strongest, or were you simply born as such? A very interesting question. Innate talent versus hard work. I've known many people who were born innately talented. They are some of the smartest and most dangerous people you'll ever meet, because they'll typically pick up something faster than you can even comprehend. I've known them. I've seen them. They're monsters. And in that case, I'd say they were born into being what they are. The smartest kid you know, or the smartest guy you know in general, may have just been born that way. It's why people say someone's the next Albert Einstein or the next Newton, because Newton and Albert Einstein, they were just born a little bit different. But at the same time, someone even more dangerous, someone even more determined, someone even more deadly is the person who earned their title at the top spot. Sure, you can't fully disregard innate talent in something like that. Like, you can definitely argue Gojo earned his title as the strongest of the modern era, but at the same time, that was a lot due to his genetics. As he said himself way back when, 80% of a soldier's potential is determined by birth. But Kashimo is interested in asking Sukuna what he was, born as or worked towards, because Kashimo has a very specific experience that he's wanting to see if Sukuna can relate to. The experience of being born lonely because there's no one else who could compete. That's it. That's a very interesting way to look at it and question it. The value of strength when one is born with it versus the value of strength and ability and power and knowledge when one earns it. Very interesting. But we do get to see that Sukuna, finally, we get a hint, a whiff, a taste, a morsel, it's so scrumdiddlyumptious, of Sukuna backstory. As he says, who knows? I was born a cursed, unwanted little wretch. That much I can say. So, Sukuna, now this could lead to multiple things. So I've heard a bunch of different theories spawned off this line alone. Number one, the theory that I leaped to immediately in the spoiler discussion, and a lot of other people leaped to, Sukuna was actually an orphan. Like, his parents just left him in a basket somewhere, and boom, Sukuna Uraume was born. That could be the case, but then another popular theory I've been seeing going around, and it pertains to another popular theory about Sukuna, is that maybe, in a similar vein to Mai and Maki, in the Jujutsu world, he was born a twin. And twins, especially in Jujutsu Society, I'm not sure about the period he comes from, the Heian era, and what the standards were like of birth of twins then, but maybe he ended up... How do I put this without sounding absolutely devious? You know how he has 4 arms and a second mouth on his stomach? You know how he doesn't have a twin to this day, yet Itadori looks very similar to Sukuna's original body? And Sukuna even finally recognizes Itadori as the guy from back then, once he finally gets the control of a new body and he can finally look Yuji dead in the eyes. I'm not saying Sukuna slurped up his own sibling or anything like that, but I'm not saying it's implausible. You know what I'm talking about? But with that being the case, we do get to see that Kashimo doesn't care. Kashimo's like a majority of the fan base. But then again, I'm happy to get more Sukuna backstory. Whether it's supposed to be sad or not, I'm just happy to get it. Shoot. Any morsel of Sukuna characterization that I can get. Chef's kiss, no matter. But Kashimo is able to completely glaze over it. He's like, how can you connect with others? How can you love those beneath you while knowing nothing of weakness? That was something I never understood. I was always shrouded by those as feeble as the dirt beneath my feet. So enlighten me. Is strength solitude? Or is it the endless search for greater power simply a crisis the strong must bear alone? So, that is an interesting point of discussion. Now, once again, I only use my anecdotal experience because that's all I got. I was born a beefy little dude. I was a big old strong kid to the point where I was pretty much until I reached like late high school. Just naturally, I was big, beefy, and strong. But due to that didn't suddenly make me disregard all of those who were weaker than me. It's interesting that Kashimo went down that path. That path, despite being born naturally powerful, he disregarded those lesser than him. I guess it's because in the world where Kashimo comes from, combat is truly all that matters. But in our world, there are different things. My strength didn't really matter fully when I was growing up. But it's still interesting to me. I knew people who were lesser than... That sounds so bad. Can I say that? Did I say that without that sounding wrong? You know what I mean when I say this. I grew up with people who were shorter than me, who were slower than me, who were not as smart as I was. Admittedly, I wasn't the smartest kid, but still. Like, I knew people who, on the stat chart, rated lower than me in all aspects. So we were just being honest and putting stats to a board. But that didn't mean I didn't care for them. I didn't disrespect them. Like, for an even simpler example, babies. Like, dog. I was not born a full-grown adult. My baby cousins, even now, just because they're weak and small and feeble doesn't mean I can't love them. Like, did Kashimo not have kids? I don't know. Or did he not have anybody he loved? When is it a similar... I feel like Yuta right now, talking to Earl, like, do you not have anyone you loved or care for? Like, anything like that? Like, I don't know. I guess it's just a difference, right? Like, those madmen who are lost entirely in their own delusions for power, those delusions of grandeur, would never consider something like that. And that's interesting. But even then, I guess Kashimo didn't even respect intelligence. But he did, though, because he trusted Kenjaku. But I suppose care and trust are two different things. It's very interesting that he felt so isolated that he finds himself needing to throw himself up against the wall that is Sukuna to find an answer. And still, I find that bit of characterization for Sukuna and all those considered the strongest of their respective eras around him. I like that extra layer of characterization to where Sukuna, in a way, is the one who figured it all out. In a twisted way, by incarnating beyond the level of a human, by becoming something more than human, not a curse, but a king of curses. He reached a twisted enlightenment, something that Gojo never reached, something that Kashimo clearly never reached. And his firm understanding of himself and his role in the world, his ability to exist almost as if he were a deity, it allows others like Kashimo, like Gojo, to bounce off of him. To see, like, bro, what is your perspective on strength, since you are the pinnacle? You are the strongest. What is that like? What does that feel like? What do you do with it? How do you exist? That's interesting. Notably, I ask myself existential questions all the time. Like, especially if I'm tired and I'm just sitting back and I'm like, what is my purpose? In 100 years, will anyone remember me? Does my existence even matter in the grand incalculable cosmos when I know for a fact I am as important as a speck of dust in my dresser drawer in the grand scheme of the universe? Huh. But admittedly, those don't consume me. Like, I still live my regular day-to-day life. I still enjoy my life. I still put value in it of myself and manage to see that perspective. And I think it's interesting, if not a bit sad, that characters like Gojo, characters like Kashimo could never do that. That existential question, that crisis that came with being so powerful from the start, from birth, where everyone simply had to look up to you, they could never do anything but look down. They could never look sideways. They could never look in a different direction. And thusly, that want for power, that desire, it consumed them. It's sad, but interesting. It's a nice extra layer to their characters. Once again, I'm going to make a talking about Gojo video in this newer characterization we got from in 236 and why it's slowly but surely starting to grow on me. So We'll talk about that. Oh, and speaking of Gojo, one thing I did want to mention, I do like how Hakari's so much a man of his word that he also didn't hesitate after the end of Gojo, who was his sensei. They did train together, and sure, it'd been a while, but still, the fact that Hakari didn't even hesitate to chase Kashimo to the battlefield and keep his promise is great. I like that. A nice extra layer of characterization for him. Not one to be consumed by the loss of a loved one and willing to do whatever he needs to do in regards to his word. Good man. But, with that being the case, we see that Sukuna, admittedly, once again, this is a difference from the fresh little raws or soft translations I read, and I'm interested to see how it pans out in the official translations. We see Sukuna with a tap of Kamutoke to his head. He says, my, how greedy. You both ask for so much. And Kashimo was actually a bit confused. He's like, what do you mean? And, oh, I didn't notice that detail, not even the live reaction, which you can check out on the Patreon for as low as $1 a month, or become a member to the channel to check it out for as low as $3 a month. But I like the detail that you can see this black sun, which is Hakari's domain, which is very, very big. This is like the biggest domain Hakari's ever performed. This is massive. I think that may just be a perspective thing. That may be a mistake. Or like, no, I'm going to chalk that up to perspective. Like, we're just closer, like the camera's closer to the domain than it is to down here. Because if not, that domain is huge. That's like a chunk of a city worth for a domain size that shouldn't be that big. But with that being the case, Sukuna is acknowledging, once again, it's weird because a lot of people compare Gojo to Buddha, right? Naturally. I alone, and then on the heavens and earth, I alone and the honored. But like, obviously, there's a lot of comparisons to be made. The symbolism, all that, I get that. But realistically, Sukuna is a twisted Buddha in of himself, who, one way or another, after walking the path to enlightenment and gaining that pure and absolute understanding of himself, now, in a way, exists and is willing to, by the way, not just involuntarily, teach others about what it means to have power. Teach others about what it means to be the strongest. Those lost lambs who do not understand what they are here for, what that existence and what their birth and all their strength that they have means, he's willing to teach them, no matter how greedy they may be. It's interesting. Once again, Sukuna, still not my favorite antagonist. Honestly, I'll be real, even after all he's done, I'm not sure if I even like him more than Mahito, but I think it's because Mahito has a much more specific... But then again, I have to rethink about that. I'll have to really rethink about that. Because I'll admit, I haven't sat down and reflected on Sukuna. I sat down and reflected on Mahito after reading Shibuya. So I'm probably going to sit down and really think about Sukuna more and more as a character, especially with these extra layers being added to him. I probably will end up liking him more than Mahito, but I still definitely prefer Kenjaku so far. But still, these extra little layers, these little details that Gege's throwing into the character, with simple words and stuff like that, little interactions, how he treats certain things, I like it a lot. I love the humanization of these characters. It's something that a lot of other series struggle with, I'd have to say. And even heck, as a guy who's writing his own series, not gonna draw it, but writing a book of his own, I even struggle with it. Humanizing villains. I do like how Gege does it. It's very, very good, and I love how he does it. But with that being the case, we see that Sukuna welcomes him to the battlefield, honoring him and respecting him in the same class as someone as greedy as Satoru Gojo, and tells the Revenant to give it his best shot. And Kashimo wastes no time in lunging in and getting to work. And we do get to see that Kashimo, he lunges in. Let me see. This is too small to be... I'll use the katana. Personally, I don't own any staffs of any sort. But Kashimo lunges in. Notably, his form is very interesting. He lunges in. The staff is over his left shoulder. Very interestingly. So he has the staff right here. He lunges in, reels back, swings down. But Sukuna, just on sheer reaction, blocks it with Kamutoke. Bounces it off in one smooth motion, showing that despite missing an arm, being extremely damaged, beat up, who knows how much, he's still able to easily react to someone as powerful and as fast as Kashimo. Once again, I built the whole narrative, and I'm going to push it until I see counter evidence to it, that Sukuna right now, even in this state, is pretty much unstoppable. Kashimo is a top 10 character, y'all. A top 10 character. We've seen this staff do numbers. We've seen Kashimo do numbers in this base state. He's coming in fresh after just watching the fight. Sure, he leaped 203 meters, but that's got to be light work for him. But this heavily damaged, probably super fatigued, not fully healed Sukuna, who at most just got a rain bath, casually bats him away like a child. Like, I don't know. What's a comparison? This reminds me of... This may just apply to people who have younger family, but I still remember whenever my family would have cookouts, you're naturally responsible for the smaller kids, right? Like if you're an older family member and the adults are talking, like the big boys and girls, they're having their discussions, enjoying their food. It fell, at least to me, and I've seen it, a lot of my friends have had this experience too, where you're responsible for taking care of the younger kids. And I don't know, at least a lot of my younger cousins, they would love to like play sword fight. They would get sticks and be like, "Yeah!" And this interaction very specifically reminds me of an interaction I had once where like, but then again, I didn't actually have a stick of my own. One of my cousins tried to sneak me, and I swung my arm behind me and snapped their stick in half. They were like 5 at the time. Of course, they weren't going to do any damage to me, but I naturally reacted to something coming at me and just bounced it off. But broke it because it was a stick and not a literal Nioi staff. So seeing Sukuna baby Kashimo like this, if that doesn't tell you how powerful he is in regards to the rest of the verse, I don't know what will. And once again, this is before the end of the chapter, while he's omega fatigued, drained out the wazoo. This is a character that's relative to Jackpot Hakari being treated like a baby. Dog. Insane. And we see it continues to the point where Kashimo doesn't even try anymore. He says, forget it. I'm not holding back anymore. You could definitely chalk this up to Kashimo being like, well, I've been waiting 400 years to use my technique on someone like you. So he's immediately using it like that. But I read this as twofold. Not only Kashimo's impatience and wanting to immediately use his technique, but also I read it as Kashimo indirectly admitting, or if not directly admitting, he can't really play with Sukuna in his base state, with just his staff and his physicals. I think he knows he can't. He needs the technique. Round start. And notably, you can tell by Sukuna's mentality and how he greets Kashimo, he's just playing around. Sukuna does, outside of the one use of Kamutoke, he does not use a single technique this entire chapter. Not a one. Meanwhile, Kashimo's instantly resorting to what is revealed to be his absolute trump card. Curse technique release, Mythic Beast Amber. Yo, that's such a fire curse technique name. But he's already going all out, and Sukuna, missing a hand, omega fatigued, wielding a weapon, forces Kashimo to throw his away, which is still disappointing. I miss it. Someone brought it up in the spoiler discussion. I mentioned we haven't gotten a good weapon battle in like years, like since Goodwill. But someone brought up, I guess technically Ogi versus Maki counts in the Zenin Clan Massacre. But even still, I wouldn't call that a good weapon battle. I call that a stomp both ways. But with that being the case, Kashimo immediately throwing away the staff. I hope it comes back. I hope he uses it. Someone mentioned it as like a gigantic lightning strike. I really hope it ends up being something like that. I hope the staff comes back in an interesting way. Because I love physical and fisticuffs as much as the next guy, especially considering what happens at the end of the chapter. I'm interested to see how Kashimo deals with it. But there ain't nothing better than a good weapon in a fight. You know what I'm talking about? But with that being the case, we see that with the activation of Mythic Beast Amber, Kashimo gets a massive buff in raw stats overall. Sukuna is shocked to see the activation of the technique. His eyes open, well, I guess technically his eyes, he still does have 2. His other 2 are burnt out, but his eyes open wide, and he immediately gets 2-pieced, which is great. Like, I think he does get punched with the left first. He gets the left hook, only to immediately get comboed into the right. So Kashimo, just on the fresh activation of his curse technique, is fast enough to hit Sukuna. Very, very impressive, especially considering he couldn't hit him in base. So this is a big amp. But note how not a single droplet of juice is dropped from Sukuna. He takes basically no damage. Well, to be fair, not every single punch is going to have you, even if it's doing damage to you. But the fact that Curse Technique punches, this is an amp state for Kashimo, and Sukuna's barely looking pressed at all, a little bit crazy. Then, interestingly enough, at first I thought this was Sukuna backflipping, but no, this is clearly Kashimo backflipping. I wonder why he goes the distance and like flips backwards here. Wouldn't it be better to fire off what he goes to fire off at close range? You would think, I don't know, at least to me. But he does backflip off, he reels back, puffs them big old cheeks up, and now with the translation, I finally get what this is. I thought it was an attack. I thought he maybe had hucked an electric loogie, like, but, was sparking on it. But no, he activates this technique. His mouth breaks apart from the sheer force of his scream, and the scream has so much concussive power behind it that it does, literally, it does concussive damage despite being a literal yell. Very impressive. We've seen sound techniques in the series before, but obviously this would have to be the highest level of it. This scream of Kashimo probably is a crazy high level attack. Though admittedly, I don't think anything Kashimo has done here surpasses his base bolt, which is very, very interesting to see his technique do this. But then again, maybe it does and we just don't know. But this blast does chunk the area Sukuna's in, but once again, I want you to look at Sukuna. His response to Kashimo reeling back and screaming at him with his Phantom Mythic Beast Amber technique is too loud. Yo, he's unfazed. It's looking rough. It genuinely is looking rough, dog. That's all he has to say to it. Too loud. Oh, what? That's crazy. Once again, this is Kashimo's. Well, we don't know if he has a domain. He may have a domain. He may have a maximum. Once again, this is the first time he's used this technique ever for us, and maybe the second time in his entire 2-life existence. But even still, the fact that the casual attacks are doing basically nothing to Sukuna other than making his ears ring a little bit. Dog, it's not looking good for him. But of course, he's still doing good things, and we see an explanation. Mythic Beast Amber transforms Kashimo's body, rendering any phenomena that can be created by electricity a weapon in his arsenal. So, that's even better than I thought it was. Well, it's not. Technically, it is better, but it isn't better. So what I thought, at least in the initial raw, rough translation, I thought he could just make anything from his cursed energy. Like, straight up anything. But no, it is limited to what electricity can make. But electricity is very, very versatile. So think of any electric power you've seen ever. In any series. Kashimo can do it. Think of any application of electricity that you can do. Kashimo can do it. And that's very interesting. I'm probably going to make a video on its own talking about the crazy applications of this technique that could be used, especially if it can be used in like a absorption way and not just a propulsion way. This technique does have potential. And I think the further progression into this more cursed energy based form that we see in this image right here is destined to happen, and he's going to need it. Though I will admit, I do love even this hybrid form that he's in right now. I love the claws, the flowing cursed energy, the way he still has his fit on mostly. I think it's super duper neat. I love it. And we do get to see that Sukuna, even after Kashimo gets this amp, you can tell he was actually still holding back a bit, because he does immediately dodge this electrical propulsion that Kashimo fires from his hand. Once again, very impressive that these electric attacks are actually detonating the ground, because, electricity usually doesn't do that. But we see Sukuna dodges, but Kashimo turns, presses Sukuna slightly. He uses another scream. This scream forces Sukuna to block with Kamutoke and close his good eyes, only for Kashimo to slobber knock him a bit. This is the first attack that seems to do actually decent damage to Sukuna, because it does knock loose some life droplets, which is good. I'm so glad that Kashimo is able to at least do a little bit of damage to the Sukuna, especially considering this is his penultimate. And we see this is his penultimate, but really it's his actual ultimate, as the narrator reveals. Increasing agility by activating his brain's electrical signals, optimizing and toning sound waves to match the natural frequencies of the natural. can't read. The natural frequencies of materials, vaporizing irradiated objects using electromagnetic waves. Kashimo's body has now surpassed the limits of mankind. However, this means once his curse technique concludes, his body will crumble. So, this is crazy. So we don't know the time limit, but essentially Kashimo is on one. This is his 8th gate. This is I saw someone said it perfectly. I forget what post it was. Someone said it perfectly. Kashimo's ability, Mythic Beast Amber, is essentially the 8th gate fused with Killua's Godspeed and electrical powers. And that's really, really good. And that's interesting. So, if he lands something like a Scream on you, it does have Dura negation properties, at least from my understanding. Optimizing and tuning sound waves to match the natural frequency of materials. Essentially, it's similar to what that filthy, disgusting, nasty thing that Kashimo failed to get rid of, that ugly excuse for a character, Panda in Gorilla Mode does, where the attacks sort of bypass whatever guarding one does, considering they are frequency-based. And unless you're like the Flash, you aren't going to guard against frequency-based attacks. So he does have some minor Duraneg. And apparently, using presumably the blast he's launching at the ground, he can vaporize certain things. So maybe Sukuna's in genuine danger if he gets hit by one of those. That's probably why Sukuna did end up dodging this blast right here, because it came directly as a blast rather than a sound wave being manipulated. Very interesting. And another point of interest is that it says increasing agility by activating his brain's electrical signals. That's a weird wording thing. I want to see the official translation on that, because your brain, fun fact, if it didn't have electrical signals going through it, you wouldn't be alive. Like, I'm pretty sure electrical... I'm gonna be bold. Feel free to correct me in the comment section if you made it all the way here. But I think the brain and its signals are happening, like, they happen even when you sleep. They're just lower than they are when you're conscious. So, like, activating them, accelerating them, that would be the proper word, at least if I had to think, for the increased speed and agility. But Kashimo being on a time limit is very, very concerning. I hope he can last a hot minute. But with that being the case, we see that he's built up enough charges to launch off his lightning bolt. And with that being the case, I'm going to chalk this up to the fact that the lightning bolt was interrupted. The can't miss attack missed, because if it actually just did no damage, Kashimo's in serious trouble. But we see there's an explosion where the bolt seemingly makes contact. And we get a reveal that is very concerning on the implications of it. And then once again, I'm going to want to see the official translations on this one. Let me take one final sip, because we finally got to the end of the chapter. Apart from reverse curse technique, Sukuna has a method of restoring his body. One he can only use a single time. A method he had been intentionally suspending this whole time. Resuming his transformation through means of incarnation. His true form manifested. We have full body, forearm, 4 eyes, Sukuna back in action, wielding one of his ancient weapons. Dog. We're in trouble. You want to know why I'm so, like, extra? Because first, obviously him incarnating into his original form is bad enough. Because presumably, with a stronger physical base, like he should have here, this body is obviously stronger than Megami's body. He's going to get a massive physical stat buff. He was already going relative to Gocho in Megami's body, when the Curse Energy Reinforcement should have been much weaker. So, that's a massive amp in of itself. Number 2, it specifically says, once again, I'm going to wait for the official translation on this one before I get too geeked, restoring his body in a similar means to RCT. Dog. He may be fresh again. He may have access to Domain again. If he has access to Domain, the verse is done. There's no other way to put it. If he has access to Domain, the whole cast and crew is done. If he opens up Malevolent Shrine, everyone loses. Easily. It's done. We're done. We're done. If he has access to Malevolent Shrine, we're cooked. We're cooked, ladies and gentlemen. We're cooked. And realize, once again, Kashimo was struggling to tag and barely did any damage to heavily damaged Maguna. We are back with true form Sukuna. He's already activated his technique. He may have a domain, but that could get cracked. We know Kashimo doesn't have a barrierless domain, if he has a domain at all, because before he saw Sukuna's, he believed a barrierless domain was literally impossible. We know he has Hollow Worker Basket, but we've seen anti-domain counters get torn apart by Sukuna's domain. He is close to Cursed Energy now, close to raw electricity, but it appears that he can likely still take damage. So Kashimo, even with this form, is not safe from domain. No one is safe from domain. And realize Sukuna is having fun. He's holding back. He's not using a single technique. Hypothetically, the only good thing that came from this is if he's fully incarnated back into his original self, maybe he doesn't have access to Megumi's technique anymore. Maybe the 10 Shadows is done, but he doesn't need it. Presumably he has more boxes. He still has the Flame Arrow. He still has his true technique's name and all of the abilities that it entails. He still has Kamutoke, which did work on Kashimo. He just heavily resisted it. He still has so much more to give, and he's already going back into his true form, which may have come with a full heal. Y'all, it's tragic. There may be need for a new paddock. However, regardless of all of that, oh no. This is a very W chapter, especially considering how mixed I was feeling off the first read, the second read, the third read, the 50th read of 236. This is straight gas from rip. The only issue I have with the chapter is that Gojo's body doesn't appear when it realistically should. That's the only issue. And even though that's not even a real issue. I get the narrative reason behind that. So, I don't know. This was straight gas. This is straight heat from beginning to end. I'm super excited to see Kashimo hopefully ramp it up a notch, actually show some relativity to 20 Finger Sukuna, pretty much instantly locking him at top 3. Like, there's no way. Unless more characters get skill into this Sukuna, he's going to instantly be locked in at top 3, top 5. Easy. He's going to be there. So I'm happy to see that. I'm very interested to see Form Sukuna fight. Like I said, this is one of the biggest reasons why I think Sukuna couldn't go. Because we didn't get this form fighting properly. And it's here now. So I'm super excited to see that. Once again, I'll mention it. I'm very excited to see not Kashimo. I'm very excited to see Hakari versus Uraume. That's a fight I'm still raring and ready to see. That's going to be super duper interesting. Wait, hype for that too. Maybe even more hype than Kashimo versus Sukuna. This chapter is straight liquid gas, so of course it is worthy. If you somehow made it to the end of this, jeez, I've been recording for for an hour and 12 minutes. Sweet mother mercy, y'all. If you somehow made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave Return of the True King in the comment section down below. I'm gonna make these passwords shorter. I'm sorry, it's just that one's super duper long because it is the return of the True King. Like, bro, he's back. So I'm sorry, I gotta pay homage to the King of Curses being incarnated again. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And please make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member to I know I always mess that up. You can always become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to get these same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a very big thank you to our $3 members, O'Connor Plays, Red Wolf 4765, and
Herb Skills.
I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Sean, Redwolf4765, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, and Demix LND. I'd like to give another beefy thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha and iDemokami. And I'd like to give a very, very hefty thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another very big, scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our two $25 patrons, Igneal and Calvin Elder.